Welcome to Soul Stories, where every tale touches the heart, inspires the mind, and stays with the soul. A sudden burst shook the ground, a small explosion under the SUV hood. Flames slithered across the metal, hissing in the rain. Inside, the injured man jolted awake, panic spreading through his expression. "Ion, go," he shouted, his voice raw and desperate. "Save yourself, save your daughter, leave me here." Ion stared at him, heart pounding, rain soaking through his clothes. The man's face was smeared with blood, his breathing sharp and painful. Yet behind all that fear was something else, a pleading message. "Don't die because of me." Another explosion rattled the air. Daniel Cross, though Ion still didn't know his identity, winced in agony. "Run, you have a child waiting for you. Don't throw your life away." Ion turned and looked toward his car. Mira's small figure was still curled in sleep, innocent, unaware, trusting him like she trusted no one else. Lightning flashed, revealing the fire slowly crawling toward the fuel tank. Ion felt torn between survival and morality. He remembered the nights he had worked until dawn, the days he had skipped meals to afford Mira's school fees, the promises he made when she cried missing her mother. "I'll keep you safe. I'll be strong for you." But what did strength really mean, running away, or standing his ground even in the face of death? He swallowed hard. "No," Ion said, voice shaking but resolute. "I'm not leaving you." Daniel's eyes widened in disbelief. "Are you insane? The car will blow any second. Then we better be fast." Ion growled. He shoved his shoulder under the bent door frame and pushed. Metal tore, sending sparks upward. Fire crept closer. The heat burned Ion's arms, but he kept going, fueled by a determination he didn't fully understand. With one final heave, the door shifted enough for him to reach inside. He grabbed Daniel by the torso and pulled. Daniel screamed in pain but clung to Ion's shirt. "We're not dying today," Ion muttered through clenched teeth. Step by step, he carried Daniel up the muddy slope, and the moment they reached the top, boom, the SUV exploded, flames lighting the entire mountainside. Ion didn't stop. He held Daniel tighter and kept moving through the storm. The storm rolled in without warning, swallowing the mountains in thick, restless clouds. One moment the sky was calm, and the next it was roaring with thunder that shook the narrow road. The rain slammed against the windshield in heavy sheets as Ion, a single father, tried to keep control of the steering wheel. In the back seat, little Mira slept peacefully, hugging her tiny school bag. Her innocence was the only warm light in that cold, dark night. Ion whispered, "Basthori Deror, princess," though he wasn't sure if he was comforting her or himself. Suddenly, a pair of headlights appeared from the opposite lane, zigzagging wildly. Before Ion could react, a black SUV hydroplaned across the wet road, spinning like a frantic beast. It skidded, jumped the edge, and rolled down the muddy slope before crashing into a ditch. Ion slammed his brakes. His heartbeat roared in his ears. For a few seconds he sat frozen, gripping the wheel. Going down there could be dangerous. The rain was heavy, visibility low. Mira was depending on him. If something happened to him, she would be left alone in this world. But then a faint glow flickered inside the crashed SUV. Smoke curled upward. Someone was alive in there. Ion's breath trembled. Humanity tugged him forward. Fear held him back. He opened his door, stepped into the icy rain, and ran toward the wreck. Mud splashed around his shoes as thunder cracked overhead. "Hello? Can you hear me?" he shouted. Inside the shattered window, a man lay slumped over the steering wheel, blood running down his face. His chest rose faintly. He was still breathing. Ion forced the door. It was jammed. He pushed harder, metal shrieking in protest. Finally, it gave way slightly. The injured man lifted his head, eyes dazed. "Take my hand," he whispered. Ion reached in instinctively, but a sharp crackle made him freeze. Sparks danced near the leaking fuel line. If the fire caught, the entire SUV would explode. Ayan looked back at Mira sleeping in his car. One wrong move, he whispered, and everything ends. But despite the fear, he didn't pull his hand back. Some decisions are made not with the mind but with the heart. Hospital lights flickered softly as Daniel Cross opened his eyes. Pain radiated through his ribs, but the steady beeping of machines reminded him he was alive. His first clear memory was Ayan's arms pulling him through fire. When the nurse came in, she smiled. "You're lucky, Mr. Cross. Another few seconds and you would have—" Daniel didn't let her finish. "The man who saved me, Ayan, is he okay? He waited here all night," she said kindly. "He refused to leave until we confirmed your condition." Through the glass window, Daniel saw Ayan sitting, hunched on a hallway bench. Mira sat beside him, swinging her feet, resting her small head against his arm. The sight stung something deep inside Daniel. When the nurse left, Daniel reached for his phone. Dozens of urgent emails awaited him. One subject line stole his breath. "Final termination list for tomorrow approved." He opened it. The very first name, Ayan Rahim, logistics supervisor. Daniel's heartbeat slowed. His stomach twisted. He had approved this cut casually, treating numbers as names and lives as mere columns on a spreadsheet. Ayan was going to lose his job, the one thing keeping Mira's world stable. And yet, that same man had risked his life to save Daniel. "Yeah, Alice," Daniel whispered, guilt crushing his chest. "What have I done?" He stared at Ayan through the window. The man looked exhausted, but he still held Mira's hand with unmatched tenderness, like she was the last precious thing in the world. Daniel had spent years in boardrooms, surrounded by people who wanted his money, not his life. He hadn't seen sincerity, loyalty, or bravery in years. But here was a man who had nothing, no wealth, no power, yet he had acted with more courage than all of Daniel's executives combined. "You saved my life," Daniel whispered to himself, voice cracking, "even when I was about to ruin yours." For the first time in years, the billionaire felt something he wasn't used to: shame, humility, respect, real, raw respect, and an unshakable urge to make things right. When Daniel finally returned to his company, every executive expected a routine meeting, financial updates, budget cuts, final signatures. Instead, Daniel entered the boardroom with a calm but commanding intensity. "The first change," he announced, "is regarding employee terminations." The directors exchanged tense looks. "Ayan Rahim," Daniel continued, "will not be fired." A ripple of murmurs spread across the room. "In fact," he said, voice steady, "I'm promoting him." The board was stunned. Daniel didn't care. "Character," he said, "is worth more than degrees, backgrounds, or wealth. That man saved my life without knowing who I was." Later that week, Daniel invited Ayan and Mira to his office. Mira clutched a cookie Daniel had given her, crumbs on her cheeks. She was comfortable around him now, something that surprised Daniel more than anyone. Ayan stood nervously. "Sir, I don't need rewards. I only did what any human would do." Daniel shook his head. "No, many people would have walked away." He slid a folder toward Ayan. Inside was a legally set trust fund, Mira's complete education, secured. Ayan's hands trembled. "Sir, I can't accept something this big." "You can," Daniel insisted softly. "You saved me, not because of my wealth, but because of who you are." Mira walked over to Daniel and held his hand. "Thank you for helping my Abu." Daniel froze for a moment. Her small hand felt warm, something he hadn't felt in years. Slowly, he squeezed back. A month later, on Mira's first day of school, Daniel arrived early to go with them. He wasn't there as a billionaire, but as family. "You really don't need to come," Ayan whispered. Daniel smiled. "Yes, I do. Family shows up. And after what you did to your family." Mira stood between them, holding both their hands as they walked toward her classroom. Two men who were strangers once, now bound by a moment that changed everything. Sometimes the worst nights bring the brightest mornings. Sometimes fate rewrites your story, and sometimes strangers become the family you never knew you needed.